and we're going to move on to TDU's game of the week, which, as you mentioned previously, is Baltimore versus Kansas City. And as we do for our game of the week each week, we're going to break it down into 4 aspects, and that is who we think is the better offense, the better defense, who we think is better coached, and who we think has more momentum going into the matchup. So this week, Arif is going to kick it off with who he thinks has the better offense.
Thanks, Jack. I found this really difficult. It took me a while, but I had to go with the Chiefs here. I mean, obviously both teams have reigning MVP quarterbacks. Obviously, I give the Ravens the better run game because of the combination of Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, rookie J.K. Dobbins, and obviously can't discount Lamar Jackson's running ability. But the receiving core of the Chiefs is really what pushes it in their favor, in my opinion. They have an incredible amount of speed, obviously. Tyreek Hill, McCall Hardman, Sammy Watkins. And although the Ravens do have Hollywood Brown, there isn't an incredible amount of depth behind him. So the the Chiefs have a lot of depth in their receiving core. The tight ends are both stars, obviously, and the offensive lines, the Chiefs have only given up 2 sacks in 2 games. Obviously, a million. The Chargers did pressure them quite a bit, but still, 2 sacks in 2 games is quite encouraging. Whereas the Ravens' offensive line has given up 6 sacks in that same time span, which is quite concerning, but we'll see how they fare. I think the Chiefs have the better offense for now.
Alrighty, I've got the better defense, and this one was pretty easy, especially after last week's performance. I've gone with the Baltimore Ravens. They recorded 2 sacks against the Browns in Week 1 and 4 against the Texans. I think after the Chiefs' defensive performance against Los Angeles, I just can't see them as the better defense. I think that the Ravens have the better secondary. I think Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters form one of the best cornerback duos in the league, if not the best. The front seven is very strong. The addition of Calais Campbell has proven to be huge. And just, as you said, Patrick Queen has had a really strong start to his career. So I look forward to seeing more production from both of those guys and how they impact the defense as a whole. That's no take away from the Chiefs defense. I think it's definitely a great defense. I just think that as a whole, the Baltimore defense is much stronger. Even after the departure of Earl Thomas, I think even that may have improved the synergy between the players, especially in that secondary. Chuck Clark, obviously, there at strong safety. So, yeah, this one pretty easy for me. Ravens have the better defense.
All right. So for my part, I've got who's better coached, and I've gone with Andy. And I just think experience. I like offense. I think him coaching, like what he's done to coach Patrick Mahomes to kind of get him integrated into that offense, in which really has been the last 2-3 years. It's been relatively quick from the time he's been drafted to a start that he is now. I think he has complete control of the offense. I think that will be the factor that gets him over the win against the Ravens. So I think Andy Reid's the better coach here.
And to wrap it up, I have more momentum, and I think Baltimore has more momentum going into this matchup. They've disposed of the Browns and Texans in weeks 1 and 2, while the Chiefs, while they were really good in week 1, kind of barely scraped by the Chargers in week 2, who took into overtime. So I think in terms of complete performances in his first 2 weeks, the Baltimore Ravens have, definitely put together the two, more complete performances so far. And coming in back to M&T Bank Stadium at home in week 3 in this matchup, I would say the Ravens do go into this game with more momentum. Now, boys, to cap off this segment, what are our game predictions?
This is tough. I mean, obviously on Multi Madness, we did bet on the Chiefs to win, but it's tough. I do think the Ravens' home field advantage, I think a more diverse offense, if you will. I think they use a lot of their players in their depth a lot more. So I do think the Ravens get the win, but I would not be surprised at all if the Chiefs pull it out, no doubt.
Yeah, same for me. I actually, you know what? I'm going to go a different route here. I'm going to say the Chiefs win in a shootout. I think that both defenses are actually going to struggle in this game. I know it's an unpopular opinion. I think the Chiefs will bring the Ravens defense back to earth. Obviously, as you said, Jack, the Ravens flew past the Browns and the Texans, whereas really Harrison Butker, bailed the Chiefs out against the Chargers. However, I think they bounced back and really test that Ravens defense. I'm going to say, if I could put a score on it, I'd say maybe 38-31 Chiefs.
Yeah, I like that. Your prediction of a shootout. I mean, it's every time that I predict a shootout, it never happens. But I feel like it has this game has a potential to actually for that to come true. I feel like even though the Ravens defense is obviously really good, I don't think they'll be able to handle what the Chiefs will throw at them on offense. And for that reason, I think we will see a high-scoring game similar to what you said, Arif, 38-31, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think it'd be a reasonably high scoring, maybe not in the 30s as you guys suggest. I reckon maybe we see a 27-24 kind of game. I will go with the Chiefs because of our multi-madness segment. I do think the Chiefs will get the job done. They probably weren't entirely pleased with their overall performance last week in the Chargers, so I do expect to see an improvement or a slight improvement, at least, especially on defense, I'd say. And Mahomes, considering that he was kind of stalled for most of that game until the last quarter, I think he's going to want to come out firing against Baltimore. So we might see, kind of a 27-24 win maybe from the Chiefs. That is our game of the week for week 3. And we're going to move on to the last segment of today's podcast, and that is Jack's real overreaction, and the boys are going to prepare to give me some statements, and I'm going to reply real overreaction.
Awesome. So, Jack, I'm going to kick it off for you. After Saquon and Christian McCaffrey's injuries, Aaron Jones is now the second best running back in the league behind Zeke.
Yeah, that's real, Arif. I thought for a second you were going to say that he's the best, in which case I would have said a reaction, because I do feel like Ezekiel Elliott is still the number one guy at the position in the league. Aaron Jones, though, has been, outstanding so far. Him and Aaron Rodgers have probably been the best quarterback running back duos so far, so far this season. So, yeah, he's been really impressive, but I don't think we've got to see it for a sustained period of time before I can confidently say that he's, better than Ezekiel Elliott. But I think right now he is probably number 2, because Derrick Henry has kind of been a little bit slower. He's got his yards, but the efficiency hasn't really been there so far. So at this point, I would put Aaron Jones at number 2.
All right. The Jaguars have a decent chance avoiding finishing the division.
That is an overreaction, Anthony. The Jaguars, they've been impressive. They've exceeded expectations so far, but I think come the business end of the season, they won't be able to match it with teams like Indianapolis and Tennessee.
Alrighty, Jack, my first statement for you is the Patriots are up there with the Chiefs and Ravens as one of the teams to beat in the AFC.
I think at this exact point in time, that's an overreaction. They are 1-1. It's been 2 weeks. I think at some point this season, we're going to see kind of like a down patch for Cam Newton and that Patriots offense. I think, as you guys know, I predicted the Patriots to still win the AFC East title this year. So I do expect them to be thereabouts at the end of the year. Maybe not quite a team to beat, but I think they'll definitely be in the playoff picture, and I believe that they will be in the playoffs. But they are not, well, at least for this season, I don't think they're going to be on the level of Kansas City or Baltimore.
Without Michael Thomas, the Saints are an average team.
That's an overreaction at this point, Arif. While they did look pretty average for, a good portion of that game against the Raiders, I feel like they're going to need some time to adapt to life without Thomas, at least for a few weeks. Breeze wasn't very good, and I don't think we're going to see that version of Breeze every week. So, Yeah, I think it's an overreaction to say that they're an average team. The defense was also quite porous. Malcolm Jenkins and Janosh Jenkins, we talked them up as really, good offseason acquisitions, but they were pretty poor against the the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think we are going to see a better defensive output from the Saints going forward, and on offense as well. I think it was just a pretty average game in general, but I don't think it's what we're going to expect from them in coming weeks, even without Michael Thomas.
The Raiders are the real deal in 2020.
I think I'm going to go with a real here, Anthony. Even though we're only 2 weeks in, I think we've got to acknowledge the play of the Raiders. Week 1, they just got over the line against the Panthers, but for a team like the Raiders, it was a good win. Like they scored well, away from home. It was a win they had to have to kind of tell themselves that they were going to do something significant this season. Then they went and beat the Saints, which kind of really put that into motion. And so I would say that they are at least trending towards being, the real deal this year. It is early, and I could have said overreaction here, but I am going to have to acknowledge the good play of the Raiders to date.
Jack, just before I get on to my second statement for you, the Raiders have the Patriots coming up this week. Do you think? I think you'll predict the Patriots to win that. Sorry, but do you think the Raiders will make it competitive?
The game's in New England, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it's in New England, I'm gonna pick the Patriots. The Patriots, yeah. I'd say if luck was on their side, a little bit more luck was on their side, they could be 3-0 in an alternate universe, this time next week. But they've played pretty well to start the season, and despite how good the Raiders have been so far, I don't think they'll be able to quite match it at Foxborough, even with no fans. But yeah, I think they would make it close. I don't think it'd be a blowout by any means, considering how the Raiders have played.
Awesome. So for my second statement, I've got the 49ers will still have a winning record as long as the run game stays strong.
Yeah, that's absolutely real. I think even if the running game stalls somewhat this season, I feel like they will have a winning record. They've just got too many good players now, all round on offense and defense. But that offensive line is really good, obviously, with Trent Williams there now, and Kyle Shanahan. He's being able to conduct such a really effective running game, and so I feel like whoever they put in there is going to have some kind of success running the football. I think we're going to see more Jerick McKinnon now that, or at least for a little bit, while Mostert is out. But Mostert and McKinnon, when they're both healthy, do have the potential to be a really good 1-2 punch in that 49ers backfield. So yeah, I do feel like the running game will continue to be successful, and even with all these injuries, the 49ers will achieve a winning record in 2020.
All right. Joe Burrow will get his first win against the Eagles in week 3.
That's a tough one, Riff. I'm going to say that's an overreaction. I feel like at some point the Eagles need to kind of kick it into gear and kind of kickstart their season. And I think it's a good chance to come this week against, a lesser opponent. You'd think they're a lesser opponent, just like we thought they were a lesser opponent, just like we thought Washington was a lesser opponent. But anyway, I think Carson Wentz has to step up and start, being consistent and making plays, and the defense has got to, limit these lesser teams, and they haven't been able to do it so far. And I think this is the week that they're forced to kind of start playing well, because if they go to 0-3, then I think the season's just about over for them. They've got a lot of injuries, and 0-3 is a pretty deep hole. So I think a win is probably on the cards for them this week.